And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Carrie Haisley with aviation weather for Friday, August 23rd, 2024. If you'd like to find us on the web, you can do so at weather.gov/Alaska. If you're looking for aviation products specifically, weather.gov/AAWU will take you to our website with our Alaska Aviation Weather Unit's products. Now, if you'd like to get a hold of me, you can do so anytime via email carrie.haisley@noaa.gov. So let's take a look at flying weather conditions for Saturday morning. We are expecting widespread marginal VFR conditions across a lot of mainland Alaska with a pretty active and wet pattern dominating our weather. Look for some IFR conditions from Utqiagvik southwest and also a lot of the Bering Sea. Parts of the Aleutians could see some IFR conditions tomorrow. Some potential for some IFR conditions out along the Gulf Coast as well. Not a lot of change as we get into the Saturday afternoon time frame. We will keep that IFR up along the Arctic coast, potential for some snow, definitely some precipitation up that way, and also we'll keep the IFR conditions out across much of the Bering and the Aleutians. We will see some improvement though across a lot of mainland Alaska, particularly across the interior, but around the mountains and around south central, southeast, we will continue to see marginal VFR conditions prevail through the Saturday afternoon time frame. Now Sunday, we do have an area of low pressure that is working its way closer into mainland Alaska through the Bering Sea, so we will see a little bit in the way of that IFR out along the Aleutians and the Bering March just a bit further eastward along with that low. More in the way of IFR conditions up along the Arctic and into the Brooks Range Sunday morning. Also looking for some lower conditions across the Gulf Coast and into southeast Alaska with another area of low pressure moving into that area dominating the weather there. Some marginal VFR conditions Sunday morning across south central Alaska. Now Sunday afternoon, south central improves up to VFR. We will look for VFR across most of mainland Alaska Sunday afternoon. For mainland, this is really kind of the calm before the next storm system moves into the west coast. Again, IFR conditions creeping its way westward just a bit. Lower conditions though across southeast Alaska, with IFR being kind of the dominant condition, with an area of low pressure moving its way right inland into the Sunday afternoon time frame. Widespread rain associated with that. Now for past conditions for Saturday, let's go up north first. We'll look for marginal VFR conditions at Anatuvik and Adigan Pass will be IFR. So marginal at Anatuvik, IFR at Adigan. It's just higher elevation, greater potential for some snow in the Adigan Pass area instead of the Anatuvik Pass area. And then down south into southeast Alaska, Chilkoot and White should be marginal VFR for Saturday. And then down to the Alaska Range, marginal VFR for Isabel, improving to VFR though as we get into the afternoon time frame. Lake Clark and Merrill, those should stay marginal VFR for the day on Saturday. Over towards Mintasta, marginal VFR improving to VFR, and that one should actually be just a bit better than Isabel for the majority of the day there. Over towards Portage Pass, marginal VFR for the day on Saturday. Marginal VFR for Rainy Pass, Tanita Pass also marginal VFR, and then lastly Windy Pass, marginal VFR for the day on Saturday. Now freezing levels, that's a lot of spaghetti on a chart there, but it is definitely a pretty active freezing level map with a pretty active weather pattern. Down along the Aleutians, we see freezing levels up to around 10,000 feet, and then we see that 10,000 feet line kind of stretch over towards Haida Gwaii across the Panhandle, 8,000 feet, and then with mainland, you're kind of in that 6,000 feet for the freezing levels window for the southern part of mainland, up to 2,000 feet to a near surface once you get up along the Arctic coast. So the higher terrain now is up in the place where it would be above freezing, so any precipitation we get in some of our higher terrain has potential on Saturday to be in the form of snow. Quick look at icing. The greatest potential for Saturday is going to be up along the Arctic coast with some precipitation, some snow moving into that area. Still fairly high up for heights though, up above about 8,000 feet. Out along the Aleutians with an area of low pressure marching its way in and a pretty dominant system there. Another area where we could see some icing Saturday and potential for some moderate out there. Just above 12,000 feet for that. And then across south central, southeast, we also have potential primarily isolated moderate above 10,000 feet. Now, quick look at our upper level winds. Strongest winds at 3,000 feet are in the far western part of the Aleutians, associated with the new system that's moving its way into the area through the weekend. Fairly light across mainland, although we do have some gustier winds across the Bristol Bay area and then across the Alaska Peninsula up at 3,000 feet. We see that at 9,000 feet as well, and just generally stronger stronger winds at 9,000 feet, especially along the Aleutians, far western part of the area there. And then up along the Arctic coast, we also start to see some higher winds just up at the 9,000 foot level, but most of mainland pretty light. For the jet stream, though, we have fairly strong winds, peaking at about 135 knots on Saturday, kind of crossing the Aleutian chain in the vicinity of Cold Bay, Dutch Harbor. So that's kind of the strongest area, that out of the northwest, and then that's the main core of the jet out ahead of the new system. The system out in the far western part of our FIR, flight information region. We see that with winds peaking up at about 110, and then another bit of a jet pushing its way into southeast. That's why it's going to be steering another system in that way. Up at the flight level, though, generally light winds across most of mainland. So last thing to talk about here is turbulence. Shouldn't be a busy day for turbulence on Saturday. Just greatest potential for some moderate is going to be out along the Aleutians. So Adak, Attu, that's going to be the area where you've got the greatest potential for moderate. It'll be a different story, though, when we get into Sunday as the new area of low pressure moves in and continues to do more to impact our weather.